Hey, everybody, we are live and welcome to Killer Be Killed podcast and the Knife Show. Peggy, thanks for joining us. And Peggy, you're asking me right off the bat to sell you on something, and I'm just simply not going to do that. It's not what I do. If you're interested in what we have to do, you can go. You can check out, One Shot Fight Enders. Go to myselfdefensetraining.com. You could try the training system for $1, but at the end of the day, I don't sell anything. If you want to train with us, that's great. If not, God bless. Have a nice day. Okay, so here we go. Couple things. The one thing about edge weapons, especially in the when you're in the martial arts, um, like all the vast majority of things in martial arts get way overcomplicated. They get taken out of context, and they get uh, kind of how can I put this? Um, it's like it's like the game of telephone. Like the farther and farther you get from reality. Now, I want to first just start off with a video of a guy who's actually pretty famous. He's like on uh, Forged in Fire. He's like the knife expert guy, and he illustrates really what's wrong with edge weapon fighting, and then I'll show you some other real life video of what actually happens and the biggest problem that people face when you're when you're using an edge weapon. So let's just want to share. Just say share my screen, Chrome tab. Let me just make sure this. Okay. So here we got. I'm going to turn the audio down on this, just because it just gets a little, convoluted. But so what you're looking at is, Kali. I trained in Filipino martial arts as well. Spotted Daga, Kali, Eskrima. Um, again, uh, way too complicated. I'm like, here you have him going over these drills where he's stabbing and attacking it's like there's a tendency to do this. It's a dance. You're like stabbing and attacking the offending appendage, right? Like if you're coming at me, I'm going to give you a measured response to to the attack, which is this is ridiculous. um cutting up someone's arm. First of all, the attacks, these are not real attacks. These are fluid. The guy's not trying to take ground. He's not trying to stab him through the heart with the weapon. He's just kind of like throwing it out there. His arm, it's very nice. I understand that this is a drill, but sped up, it doesn't matter because the intent is not there. I mean, these attacks, and of course, oh yes, using the weapon against your opponent, very cute, very martial arty. We have to have fun. We have to have fun with this, and it's got this like cute little thing to it. But the reality is, this is not a knife attack. A knife attack is visceral. It is like personal. I mean, you can't get any more, into somebody, right? I mean, and doing all this, like tying this guy up in this nonsense. This is not real. This does not happen. And and this is it's a joke. I really, it does a disservice to everybody doing this. And I know everybody believes in it. I doubt if any of these guys were in a real, have been attacked by a knife, or been in a situation with even a weapon present in the real world. if you would know this. I mean, this knife fighting West Side Story nonsense, this isn't real. Okay, this doesn't happen at all. So, you know, we do, I mean, again, like this complicated stuff. It just is. It's like this is from outer space. So, you know, he hasn't even really attacked him in a manner that would be considered lethal, given, you know, in order to cut his hand or his wrist to cut through. I mean, this all complicated stuff is just, oh my God. But there's like complete cultures and systems based on this nonsense. I can't stress this enough. This is not knife fighting. This is a dance in the fantasy land. You know, and again, I know people dedicate their lives towards, you know, perfecting this type of training. But what are we doing? You know, and again, the guys, like, there's no reaction, there's no pullback, there's no, you know, that even attack is not even real. So, you know, you want to. So, I just, you know, this is just our starting point about what a lot of people's concept of knife fighting is. And it's got nothing to do with the real world at all. At all. So, you know, again, I'm sure it's, you know, complicated and extremely, you know, difficult to master. But again, it is like, it is an exercise in futility. You'd be better off spending your time, you know, practicing your grip training and doing some of the things, in fact, all the things we're going to be telling you today. But, you know, if you want to really be concerned with edge weapon fighting, and if you're going to use a knife, you better train your grip like crazy, right? I mean, that is the most important aspect of having a knife, is actually be able to hold it and plunge it into your target. So we're going to talk about techniques today. We're going to talk about types of weapons. We're going to talk about target areas and things like that. I mean, you know, we'll try to, you know, keep it again within the normal time frame. Again, obviously, you know, you see I'm alone. George is not here. George is under the weather, is not feeling well. Again, T's and P's out to Georgie. I just talked to him, and he's got a stomach thing. I actually just got over the COVID. Let's go. So yeah, I had the Rona and had the Omicron, and just got over that. Got that a week ago Sunday. I think for me personally, it was just a weird kind of cold. I didn't have a fever. I wasn't really didn't get nauseous or anything like that. I was just kind of tired, so I slept a lot. I spent my New Year's Eve in bed, New Year's Day in bed, and then it's funny. I think the first few days I had it, I was out of it, and then like that Friday, so New Year's Eve, I felt pretty good that morning. And then we were going over a friend's house, and then I didn't even look at my wife. I just went to bed like 5:00 on New Year's Eve. Yay, Happy New Year, yay. Okay, so that was it. So let's look at what a real knife fight looks like, or knife attack. So where's my thing? Oh, okay. Yeah. So the only place to really look at real knife attacks are prison. So, you know, as these things come up, you can, you know, take a look. But the fact is, there's no group of individuals who have more real life knife edged weapon fighting experience than prisoners. Period. Forget, you know, Master Hu Flung Poo or whatever you got going on. You know, the guys who are using edged weapons to survive in prison, in the real world, in real fights, are convicts. So it's best to understand what happens and your capabilities of an edged weapon, um, when we study these videos. So okay. All right. So here are again the officers in this video did not die. They were injured, cut, survived. So thank you, for your service. And the piece of crap in here that attacked them were handled. So
The officers pat down each inmate as they walk out. Those pat downs include Joe Martinez and Lorenzo Martinez. Officer Rico doesn't feel the homemade knife that documents say would be used to stab him moments later. After the pat down, watch as the two inmates attack Officer Rico, repeatedly stabbing him in the head. According to documents, Rico blacked out. Officer Yara pulls an inmate away from the fight and sprays pepper spray. An incident report says when an inmate gets to the state pen, they're told if there's a fight, they should lay on their stomachs and not get involved. Two inmates don't do that. A third officer fires beanbags at the inmates 3 times. They drop to their stomachs. More officers arrive as Officer Rico makes his way out of the area, leaving a trail of blood behind him. He would need stitches to close 3 cuts on top of his head. Officer Yara had 2 cuts on his face.
Okay. So, what did we notice? All right. Fast, no big, very deliberate movements. The attacks.
Moments later.
Let me just mute this. Okay. The attacks to the head and the face. Well, again, obviously you can get, cut in the eye, cut in the throat. But generally, caused superficial damage. And this guy's on the ground covered up and he's getting stabbed, right? So the other thing you should understand is that, when you get stabbed, you don't automatically, most times you don't even know you're stabbed. It's usually after the fact when you see the blood that all of a sudden it goes, your body kind of lets loose. But when you're under the attack, you don't even notice it. And this is important to know for knife defense, because, knife defense, like when you're practicing in typical, martial arts training, someone touches you with the knife. They're like, oh, you're dead. I stabbed you. I mean, it's bullshit. Okay. It doesn't work like that. In fact, nobody dies in training. And when you're training these things and you get stabbed or you get touched with the knife, you should train to completely ignore it and continue to attack the man and go at the man and survive and escape the situation. Right. So, you'll notice that, these guys are getting stabbed multiple times. You got a different couple of reactions. One guy got overwhelmed, right? And the other guy continued to operate, right? So, there's a mindset that's there. And again, this is just, the problem is like, hopefully you train enough so that you have the responses, hardwired into you where you just react and go and don't pay attention to, the actual assault or realize that you're getting stabbed or, again, you want to continue to train through that always. But again, very simple assault, not complicated. And they've got like a very small weapon. It's probably, about, this size and length. So that's only like 1.5 inches, 2 inches. All right. So they can conceal it. We'll talk about weapons next. I just want to, there's another video that I'd like to share with you. Again, another actual attack where, again, it's a similar attack. It's not, now this is inmates attacking other inmates. So we'll go
the men. Shackled, they were unable to run.
I was like, wow, this can't be happening. I got up and the other inmates got up, and we trying to get out.
Look, so he's getting stabbed. That's it. He's getting stabbed in the body.
Captured in security video obtained exclusively by the Associated Press raises questions about how such an attack could have happened.
And these guys are just chained to the table, so they're kind of screwed.
The alleged attacker, Greg Rinke, was...
You know, I love that he's alleged. I mean, you know, we're watching him do it. And he's just, you know, picking through them while he's there. Let me see if we get another shot of this stuff. Yeah. Okay, now I can see the aftermath. You know, now he starts bleeding out a lot. Again, everybody survived in the video. But, you know, take a look at it again. Now, they'll sit there and they'll tell you, you know, people may make this argument that these guys are not trained. This is what's been proven to work in these situations. So whether, you know, they're not, you know, formally trained, but, you know, they're trained in the world of prison. So these guys are, you know, you're looking at stuff that's been passed down. Now, years ago, you know, we were taught, well, we learned that, you know, in order to really kind of, you know, one of the techniques people did, because again, the biggest thing, the hardest thing to do is to keep hold of the knife. Think about it. You know, you're stabbing into something, and that something's got bone, it's got muscle, it's got, you know, fluid, it's sticky. It's not a good environment, and it's not conducive for you to hold on to something. So what they would actually do is they would actually take a weapon and then wrap bed sheets around it and then soak it, making like this big old club with this, you know, shiv sticking at it. And then they would use it, you know, as an impact weapon and a, you know, and obviously an edged weapon. So, you know, grip, really holding on to the weapon is almost is more important than, you know, where you're stabbing. And we're going to talk about that right now. So most of what you're seeing, or most of the target areas, we have this on the My Self-Defense Training website. Let me just say to Chrome tab or here. Okay. So this is on the My Self-Defense Training website. And while people will argue about Fairbairn's like timetable of death, first you should understand is like the target areas are the most important than they are, you know, how long it's going to take to bleed out. So like he's saying, like a brachial, you know, so like the arm, the number one position, that's going to bleed out time of like a minute and a half, loss of consciousness in 14 seconds. The radial, which is the wrist, it's like loss of consciousness 30 seconds, 2 minutes. The one thing you should realize, though, is that when these guys are talking about, you know, what knife they're using the Fairbairn Sykes knife. This thing is awesome. I'm a huge fan of this. There's a reason. Look at the blade and the length of the blade and the width of the blade. I mean, this thing is going into your rib cage and into a lung and into an organ. Into your spleen. It is causing a severe amount of death. Did I just say severe amount of death? Yes, I did. I meant a severe amount of damage. All right. There's a reason why they use this style knife. Obviously, you know, it's a full tang. It's got the hilt on it, which you're going to discover is extremely important. Extremely important. The grip width is not too thick. Okay, so you can wrap your hand around it securely. And this thing's not going anywhere. I mean, hilt, size of the pommel, extremely important. Extremely important. You know, I've got a variety of blades here for different reasons that are, you know, they're just too small or whatever, but they do serve a purpose and how you manifest them, and we'll talk on that in a little bit. So basically, when you're looking at this, you're looking at, you know, the neck, the throat, the arms, the center of the chest, the heart, though very difficult. I mean, you really got to get through the rib cage depending on your weapon. That's why the Fairburn Sykes knife is amazing in that regard. And then you've got, you know, your major arteries, and then of course your intestines under the rib cage. So like that bread basket, if you will, is a great target area, and that's why a lot of the guys in prison are going to that. There's not a lot of bone there. You can nick an artery, you can cause a lot of damage. Years ago, we're sifting through videos, and there's going to be Fairburn was going to do a video on knife fighting or a special thing, and you know, it was like we're sitting there hours through like black and white video, and you know, you're sitting there, and finally at the end, he comes up and he's like all crusty. You can tell he's just pissed off and fed up, and it's just like basically he's like, yeah, he's like, you know, stab him here, and he points to the guy's stomach, and he's like, guts fall out. He goes, and the fight's over. So I waited, you know, you waited hours to get that, you know, nugget. But as potentially disappointing as it was, there's truth there. You know, it's like, don't overthink this stuff. Don't overthink it. You know, you've got to like, you know, it's just a matter of like, you know, getting it into the softest part of the, you know, whatever target area you can, as fast and as many times as possible. You know, unless you puncture a lung or go right into his heart. I mean, the majority of times guys they're gonna bleed to death from a knife wound. So that doesn't happen right away. I know, you know, again, we're looking at if you hit the artery, you know, you've got, you know, the carotid, you know, you're looking at, you know, you're saying 12 seconds to death. Again, I think these timetables are not entirely accurate, but, you know, the target areas are correct. So hitting home, you know, it's like, you know, again, you know, as if Fairburn learned that any wound with rough edges would heal more quickly than a dull blade. So, you know, when we're talking about, you know, edge versus, you know, sharp versus dull, you know, I mean, again, I think we're kind of nitpicking a bit. Again, it's more length of the blade, construction of the blade, as you can see here. And, you know, really how you grip the blade. And a knife will tell you how you're going to grip it. Two basic grips are ice pick and hammer grip. So, that's right, that's ice pick. I'm a knucklehead. Okay, and hammer grip. So, you know, there's really like, I mean, even here he's showing like holding it like this. I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to share a video with this training with this stuff, is that, you know, that's going to determine, like when you actually stab stuff, it will determine, you know, what your grip's going to be. I found that the fencing grip was no good. I needed the hilt only because like you're hitting into stuff. This is pushing back. It's violent against your thumb and your forefinger to the point where you won't hold it. It'll be very difficult to hold. This is why. So let me just talk about, you know, different types of knives for a minute, and then we can get some of the training stuff. So Years ago, I got this knife. It is a Bud Neely neck knife. I paid a lot of money for it. It was a few $100, like 30-something years ago. Yeah, I'm old. And I love this thing. And I love this thing until the day, I mean, it's Damascus steel. It's all that stuff. I love this thing until the day I actually stabbed something with it. And then I freaking hated it because I cut my hand. Remember OJ? Anyone? Remember he had cuts on his hands? Because when you're cutting, what happens is your hand without that hilt moves along the blade. So that's why he had cuts on his index finger, his thumb, things like that. I mean, that's because of, when you actually stab something, one, there's resistance against the blade. Two, is that when you're actually, when there's blood and, liquid, the holding thing, it becomes very difficult to hold on to. You're nicking bone, you're doing all, you're just getting in this nasty environment. The best thing about this thing was just really the way that the neck knife section of it. And I still carry it, but I don't carry it as, it's not like something that I would, it's something that I anticipate losing in a target. All right. So, we'll talk about, again, manifesting these blades differently. So let's talk about stuff I do love. Obviously, the Faber and Sykes knife is great. Again, not that fencing grip stuff, but just really just squeezing the snot out of it with the hammer or, the ice pick. All right. And even, motions, it's, look, we're always trying to stab, right? Slashes are stabs that miss, right? So we are moving in, and in general, you always want to protect the knife, which means if I have it in my strong hand back here, my lead hand, my front hand will be empty unless I'm going knife against knife, again, which is extremely rare. So, most part, if you're watching, just watch module 8. I think that's, module 8. That's the edge weapon and impact weapon, the training system. Show you exactly how to, how to manifest this stuff and how to conceal it, even how to we'll talk a little bit about today about, where in your body and why you would have, edge weapons certain places. So, but in general, you would keep this hand free to to attack and, line them up and then follow up with the weapon hand. Okay. This is your knockout punch. Another knife I do like is anything with a ring finger in it. This one's a little small, but it's still, I have several of these. I enjoy these because, again, your fingers, you're not letting go of this. This is, it's, you're wrapped in there. You're squeezing it. You're holding it. It's not, it's coming back. No problems coming back. T-handle. Okay. This is another great design. I mean, especially, again, like I know we talk about, women's, sometimes talk about like women's self-defense, but for the most part, like my daughter, my wife, and this is like the stuff that they got. Because you're being held down and you have this thing on your waist. Don't think of where you like your don't think of your knife as like some West Side Story nonsense, right? Where you're gonna hold it out like no. I mean, you're gonna have these things like tucked in your belt, tucked in your boot or your shoe, under your sleeve, and they're gonna be there more for grappling situations. So imagine if you're a female and you are under a much larger attacker trying to, fight your way out, and you can just hold on to this thing and just start hitting them anywhere and stabbing them anywhere and having an effect on your attacker instead of trying to do some, jujitsu convoluted grappling move that's designed to work on somebody your own size and ability, right? So, why not just have a couple of these tucked in your belt? So T-handle, it's great. Again, think about it. You're under stress. You're squeezing the snot out of this thing. You're just hitting and hitting and hitting. And granted, he may not know he's, bleeding yet. But again, as soon as you start, time is ticking, right? I'm like, now he needs medical attention. And yeah, it could be minutes and that could seem forever. But again, you're not getting raped and you're not getting murdered. So, what's your choice here? Again, not tremendously difficult skill to develop. The skill is really how you're, secreting it on your body and then how you're accessing it. So like this again is excellent. T-handle is excellent. Would I prefer dual blade? Yeah, totally. Definitely. More blades better. More blade the better. Good stuff. Okay, this is another little Smith & Wesson belt knife. Again, it's kind of got that, karambit kind of thing going on. Not generally opposed to it. Not as good as the T-handle or the finger hole. But still, it can, this is a close in, around my waist kind of weapon. Having the neck knife. Again, this goes underneath my shirt. And this is not something that I would pull out, to be like, yeah, I'm like, no, this is something that I would grab if I was on the ground and, I've got people on top of me and I got to fight my way out. This is a situational load, right? So again, things like boot knives. Again, it's got a hilt. It's a little small for my liking, just because I don't, I like this end of it to be past my hand. So, it's really not getting my full grip. But if you're going to wear one boot knife, wear two. So why would you wear two boot knives? And where would you put them? Okay, so think about if you're grappling and you're on the ground, because that's what they're for. You'd want them on the outside of your leg, and you want them on both legs. So why do you think that is? And because if you've got one leg trapped, you can't access the weapon. So if you're going to have one boot knife, have two. And yes, Robert, I agree with you. T-handles are great, and they are better than the karambit. Thanks for posting, brother. So, what I want to say is that think about the situation that you're setting up for. So if you had two boot knives, a neck knife, a knife around your waist. Do I need, sleeve daggers? Possibly not. If, and then you've got, probably a primary edge weapon on your, on your hip, your utility knife. And this is based on the Fairbird model. Again, little wider blade, still long and and doing the job. Think about you're penetrating and pushing into into another human being. I mean, if you need, if you need like instantaneous, you gotta mess up the airway, right? So that comes with, that comes with the esophagus, the lungs, the diaphragm, and that would cause immediate, pain and discomfort and get them to stop. Other than that, most of the times they're going to bleed out. So don't forget. So while you're feeling that pain and adrenaline rush, I should say, so's your attacker. So we don't expect them to fall over at the first second of the first moment of being touched by a knife. They're experiencing the same thing. And if Tom just got here, thanks for checking in, brother. So how to train for this? We do this in Modulated Self-Defense Training System, and I posted this video on YouTube that I'm going to share with you. And this is going to show you really, and once you do this, I mean, look, now we use cardboard in this mainly because it's just easier. You've got this stuff. It's, it's around, it's accessible. People have used pork shoulder, they use gallon jugs and all the other stuff. And I go, not saying no to any of that. It's just that you can replicate this. You can make it. You can make your training, your training mock-up and use your dummy for it. It doesn't require, a lot of skill. It's just you, duct tape, and some cardboard. So just all right. I think I got the right one. Nope, not this one. Hold on. Where'd it go? Bear with me, guys. No, that's not it. Here we go. Ta-da. All right, who's that handsome son of a bitch?
All right, now let's go touch our target kill gun.
All right, let me just bring that back a little bit. Again, it's not too complicated. This is just
a little weapons offense from Module 9 of the self-defense.
Module 9. Sorry, see.
How we set this little drill up and take it from there. What we're going to be doing is constructing a striking pad for our live blade. It's very similar to what the Japanese would do with their makiwaras and kimishigari, which is test cutting. You want to be able to have something that will give you some resistance and give you a real feel for when you're actually having to use a weapon.
I know when I'm dressed like a the Mum and Shots character. For some reason, I thought that was good, so I apologize for my shirt.
Yeah, this way you can protect your target, and you'll also protect your blade, depending on what you have this thing mounted.
So the really takeaway there is, like, depending on what length blade you're working on, obviously you want the cardboard to be about, a half inch or more longer than your blade, because don't forget, when you're stabbing into it, besides going through it, you're also going to be compressing it, which means obviously the cardboard's going to bend and flex. And if you don't give a crap too much about your training dummy or whatever you're mounting it on, especially if you want to be mounting it on something that moves. So if you don't mind, like a little, just the tip going into your training dummy, then you don't have to worry about it that much. Again, it's like, but it's something to consider.
You have to make this secure enough so it doesn't fall apart when you beat the crap out of it.
Genius I am. No crap. All right. So then we're just securing it to the dummy.
All right, so now we got this somewhat securely fastened to our dummy. I happen to run out of tape today, so this thing goes flying off. I'll say it in the morning. Whatever weapon you're going to carry, you better practice actually striking a target with it. The people that do all the fancy knife stuff, first off, think about it, when you actually have to do this to another human being, you're not going to be in the frame of mind to be flipping and moving things around. I mean, it's just ridiculous. If you're practicing with a knife and you're playing tag in the gymnasium or you're hitting air, you're not preparing yourself for what's about to happen. I mean, if you're thinking about plunging this into another human body, because that's what we're talking about, besides the blood and the muscle and the tissue and you're going to get bone, and the body's going to actually clamp down on this thing. You're going to have to withdraw it and pull it out. And in order to do some real damage, you got to plunge it into your target. Okay, and there's really only two ways you're going to grip the knife, depending on what kind of knife it is, whether it's a push dagger, whether it's got a finger loop. But basically, for a straight blade, you're either going to grab it this way or that way. Anything else, even like a fencing grip, especially if this knife doesn't have a hilt on it. So, here, this hurts your fingers, and your thumb slides right off the blade. So if you're thinking about carrying something and you're serious about what you're doing, you better practice. Again, in Module 9, we take you through a variety of drills using this type of setup, just working with a straight plunge to the midsection, and from the body, we're driving it up. Okay. Real simple, nothing to it. But again, you're driving it in, and then you're going to have to withdraw and pull it out. All right, start with that. Again, up into the body, pulling out. As always, exercise extreme caution when using these types of techniques. Again, these are for self-defense purposes only and demonstration purposes only. Again, we go through this extensively in Module 9, self-defense training system. But seriously, if you are thinking you're an edge weapon aficionado, you better start hitting some targets.
Yeah, listen to that guy. So you'll discover a lot about. Sorry. Okay. You'll discover a lot about how to use your weapon when you're actually using it. Okay, as opposed to, all the stuff that, the dancing and all of the ceremony and the fanciness and all that crap that goes into. I mean, we're using these things, and we're like here and here. I got to tell you also, you're flipping man, you do not want to put a live blade past your own hand, your own body. There's just something unnatural about it. And you'll notice when you're stabbing and you're working with the dummy, because I said Module 9, we do all the drills. We do the drills from, ground, obviously, from standing and ground. You'll notice, like, when you're holding something and you're stabbing it, you got to be careful, right? And there's certain things you're really, you can wind up stabbing yourself, especially in like a real fight. So, that's why, when you're looking at these things, and you do that, you take the cardboard, you stab your training dummy for even a little bit, you're going to understand what, a lot more about edge weapons than, a knife, knife experts that, dude, I gotta tell you, man, I've stood in seminars literally like holding a knife and like moving around it and doing, man, I tell you, I've suffered so much nonsense, and when you go to like, the guys who actually used edge weapons in combat of that, era. And you find that these guys are just like, grip the knife, put the pointy end in the bad guy. Mike just asked me an opinion about something. I have no idea, dude. I don't know what that is or who they are or what I'm talking about. Forgive my ignorance, but I don't have any thoughts and opinions on whatever that is. So anyway, we've got a great habit as human beings to overcomplicate things all the time. And when in reality, I mean, just keep it simple. You know, I mean, you want to fight with a knife. There's a couple of things. One, your grip. Two, how do you manifest the knife? How are you concealing it? You know, you think about how, you know, parts of your body that could be pinned down, right? So, you know, you've got T-handles, right? Great configuration. They can be stowed about your body, you know, any place. You have your, you know, obviously neck, waist, boots or legs. Think about if somebody's on top of you, and you can't, you know, you may not be able to access your waist. You may not be able to get to your neck. You may only be able to get to the outside of your leg, and then have both legs, not just one. Right? I mean, you know, having a primary weapon on your hip is great as a tool, but again, you know, that, you know, you could get, you know, your grappling situation, somebody's on top of you, you know, you might not be able to access that. You know, how complicated is it to open it, right? I mean, most of the stuff that I have are fixed blades. I've got a couple things that open, but again, wouldn't recommend them. I mean, I just like the finger hole on this thing. I think, you know, T-handle is your overall best bang for your buck because you can grab it. It's a fixed blade. I said, you know, Rob is a big fan, and I couldn't agree more. You know, even you know, Soccer Bomb is quoting Rob here. It's 6 weeks of cardio kickboxing classes could be Wolverine. You know, or she's just punching and stabbing with these things. Yeah. Yeah, Mike got a great point. Thanks for posting that, dude. I want to elaborate on that too. A good rule of thumb for a knife: if it's flashy, it's trashy. Man, I couldn't agree with you more, brother. You know, and I was like on a conversation with a guy who made edged weapons, and I'm going to tell you that I'm not going to use a name, but dude, he was charging like $1,200, $1,500 for these things. And I look, man, if you can get it, God bless you, that's great. But if I'm carrying a weapon for self-defense, I mean, if I spend more than like $20 on it, $30 on it, on a full tang, full steel, hardened steel weapon, you know, then I'm not going to carry it. Because what happens a lot of times, not necessarily if you have to get rid of it, is like I'll have stuff and all of a sudden I realize I'm at the airport. Whoops. And I'm about to go through security. You know how many blackjacks and knives I've like dumped because I forgot they were in my backpack? More than a couple. Now, if that's a $20 knife and a $20 blackjack, all right, yeah. Kind of, you know, it sucks, but again, it's not, you know, a $300 knife, you know, or, you know, a $500 freaking knife or handmade blackjack that, you know, someone made out of like, you know, perfect leather and, you know, beat it over a rock for an hour. No, you know, again, so you've got to, yeah, right, Mike, a $3 paring knife will kill you just as fast. Totally true. I mean, kitchen knives are great. Right, like, you know, look at the construction of them, right? I mean, full tang, you know, good metal. Again, you know, we like the, I said, we're liking, you know, the T-handle grip. But yeah, so let's not get all fancy into it. Again, as long as it's sharp and pointy, it'll get the job done. You know, so just make sure. You know, you set up that cardboard training situation. I'm like, that's gonna improve your ability to use an edge weapon infinitely. One, again, practice fighting with the knife, not necessarily knife fighting. Like you can see in the video that I showed, I'm edge of hand, I'm hitting and follow up, bang, 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 bang. Nobody's taking that knife away from you. Nobody. I'm like, it's not going to happen. They're going to take it away from you. It's going to be in their body. So, the people of the mind that, well, if somebody, you've used your weapon, somebody will take away from you. I'm like, bullshit. They didn't train with us. You have that weapon secure in your rear hand and you're protecting it, or if it's a T-handle blade and you're pulling it out when somebody's on top of you and you're, nobody's taking it away from you. But if you're going to sit there and hold it out in front of you and dance and be like, yeah, okay, I can see that happening. Sure. Yeah, don't do that. Next. So, look, I mean, hopefully, we'll, again, if you're here, you know the deal. Go practice. Understand you don't got to do a million hours on it, but it's just, practice stabbing something. You carry a blackjack. You use a stick. It's the other thing with knife fighting and stick fighting. It's like, hit something with it. And you could look at like stick fighting now. Guys will do like stick fighting, and there'll be two guys with sticks that turns out into like a wrestling match next to a couple of sticks lying on the ground. So again, you're going to use a weapon. You're going to carry a weapon. You actually need to practice 100% with a weapon. It's like hitting air. No bueno. Okay. You want to get good at something, you got to go practice with it for real 100%. You start stabbing with, your edge weapons. I'm like, you're going to realize like what grip works, what grip doesn't work, and how simple it really is. So I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Hopefully, George is feeling better. Again, check out the training sequences in Module 9 of the Self-Defense Training System at myselfdefensetraining.com. We go through everything. We even show you how to conceal the weapons and how to use them and deploy them and practice using them in real situations. So again, I want to thank you for joining me today. And until next time, train honestly.